We want to get rid of the Palestinian Authority. Meanwhile, the White House is saying they want a pause. Should there be a pause?
No pause. President Biden started off with the right instincts, which were to help Israel defend itself after the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, and help Israel destroy Hamas so it never happens again. But now he seems to be succumbing to pressure from the radical left, the intifada left, which has never recognized Israel's right to defend itself, which occasionally admits they don't recognize Israel's right to exist. So what does it say about our president that it only takes a few days of MSNBC criticism for him to change his policy? A pause benefits Hamas. Even Hillary Clinton admitted as much. And Hamas has American blood on its hands. Hamas has American hostages and many young children in its hands. We should be pressuring states like Qatar to extradite Hamas officials so they can't get away with their war crimes. We should be saying that Hamas officials are legitimate targets, and if you harbor them, you're assuming significant risk. But instead, we're sleepwalking into a ceasefire that benefits Hamas, benefits Iran, and all of its allies like Russia and China. It's a bad decision.
Hey, Congressman, you know this, but yesterday you had Admiral Kirby praising Qatar for helping out and being, while they harbor all the political wing of Hamas. Do you believe that if you're Israel, are they target for assassination?
Well, first of all, that praise is ridiculous. We've also had the Qataris take to the pages of major American newspapers to say, hey, we're just an honest broker in the Middle East, which is nonsense. We've designated them as major non-NATO allies. We need to be using our leverage to pressure them to extradite Hamas officials. The status quo is unsustainable. And again, Hamas has targeted Americans in addition to Israelis. So this signal that we're sending is only going to increase Iranian aggression. In particular, remember, Israel is being attacked from Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen right now. U.S. troops are being attacked by Iranian puppets in Iraq and Syria. And Hezbollah is risk escalating. So this will increase aggression against us. We need to restore American deterrence, and that's not happening right now. It's collapsing.
Well, Go ahead. No, ladies first.
Thank you. Congressman, yesterday y'all passed in the House, you passed this bill to give money to Israel, taking funds from the IRS. Democrats in the Senate are saying this is not going to pass. They're not going to vote for it. And even if they do, and it does pass and it makes it to the president's desk, he's saying he's going to veto it. What's the plan to give money to help Israel?
Well, first, I think the president's veto threats are hollow, and the fact is we have to immediately pass support for Israel. If the Senate wants to pass a counter proposal, we'll look at it and then we'll do what needs to be done. Ours was a bipartisan vote yesterday, so my hope is the Democrats don't play politics with this proposal. I think we need a separate track of negotiations for things like Ukraine in return for meaningful border policy changes, and the president's attempts to link all these things together into one massive $100 billion pot of money that's going to pass on Christmas Eve. That's bad legislating. It's actually bad policy. So I think we can take care of Israel in bipartisan fashion and then consider the other things we need to do, like defense appropriation, support for Taiwan, and then again, a good faith negotiation on Ukraine and border. So the president's veto threats, I don't think help at all. But again, I don't take them that seriously.
Congressman, how much are you worried that the president's going to go wobbly? I mean, he has been steadfast in saying we stand in solidarity with Israel. But at the same time, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, top Democrats in the swing state of Michigan are calling the White House, and they're saying because this administration has a we're 100% behind Israel policy, that is alienating a lot of Arab Americans. And in Michigan, where the largest population of Arab Americans lives, the president's popularity now is at 17%. Donald Trump is over double that. Are they freaking out at the White House?
I think so. I mean, listen, the Democratic Party is divided. I mentioned the ascendance of the radical left or the intifada left that they have to deal with. My bigger concern, however, is the White House is unwilling to do the most obvious thing, which is change their Iran policy. And it's their Iran policy, their attempt to resuscitate the lifeless corpse of Obama's Iran deal, that has led to chaos in the region. And we see a disturbing pattern from Afghanistan to Ukraine and now to the Middle East, where the weakness creates chaos, and then bizarrely, the Biden administration takes credit for the response to the chaos that their policy led to in the first place, right? Afghanistan was a logistical success. Integrated deterrence is working in Ukraine, and now chest beating over Israel and using the crisis to jam $60 billion in Ukraine spending in a supplemental. It's an unwillingness to recognize mistakes and correct course that has me the most worried about this administration, which is why I think he needs an entirely new foreign policy team if he wants to turn it around.
I agree. They got to get new people in there. Lastly, real quick, you know what it's like to be in a military base in Iraq. They're sitting there in Syria. Their targets have been hit 28 times, and they've been hit 7 times, or maybe 9 now, since we hit back in Syria once. How important is it to let our guys hit back and take out these militias before this ends up in catastrophe?
Well, first of all, the base I deployed to, my first deployment, was attacked by Iranian militias, al-Assad, and I think that's where one contractor died, which is bizarre to me given how peaceful things were by the end of the surge on my second deployment. It's imperative. We have to speak in the only language that dictators and terrorist-sponsoring regimes understand, which is the language of hard power. If we don't reestablish deterrence by demonstrating our willingness to respond in kind and impose real costs on the regime, both maximum pressure economically, but target their troops and IRGC commanders if they target our troops, we will only see further Iranian aggression. That's just how the region works. And this administration instead thinks that sternly worded tweets or statements from the State Department are somehow going to reestablish deterrence. That's not the way the Middle East
But Congressman, who is it that is prohibiting the response? Is it the commander-in-chief, or is it the brass saying they don't want to respond?
I suspect that it's the White House. And I do, however, have to take issue with what Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said. When he described our response, he said this has nothing to do, essentially, with the situation between Israel and Gaza, which is either a deliberate misleading of the American people or a fundamental misunderstanding of the complex regional dynamics, because Iran is behind everything.
Right. He used to serve there.
Yeah,
I mean, did he not learn anything when he was there? Or is he just mouthing somebody else's words?
Congressman, thank you very much for joining us from Statuary Hall. And I noticed that you are in front of Jacques Marquette, who is from your home state of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's the center of everything. That's the important takeaway from this conversation.
That's all we should take away from this.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Congressman.
Okay.
It's Iran over there, Wisconsin over here.
For more on Wisconsin and are they the center of everything, here's Carly Shimkus.
Steve, that was also like a really, really impressive fact that you just laid out there for everybody to see.
Smooth.
I'm extremely impressed with you, always.
That's what they do. The congressmen like to stand in front of their statue when they're in Statuary Hall.
Yeah. Brian wants to take down all the statues, but that one's going to stay.
When Steve was doing it, when you were in the pandemic, weren't you behind your statue at your house? I don't remember. It's been so long.
No, you're the one with the bust.
Oh, that's true.
Remember?